How you doing? This is Bob Gums, bringing you the Concerned Forum from Kampala, Uganda. And I hope all and you and yours are doing well. I'd like to ask a favor. When you see this on YouTube, if you can make a little check mark, um, and also, by all means, add your comments, positive and negative. It doesn't make a difference. I want to know how you feel about the information that I'm trying to present. Now, I really had planned to take the rest of the weekend off, but I saw something last night that, it really went straight to my heart, and it made me quite freaking angry, to tell you the truth. Um, I'm an American living in Africa. I've been over here now for the last several months, and I'm still a registered voter in the Bronx, and I keep up with what's going on. And I try and do whatever I can to help. Okay. I saw on YouTube, one of the videos I saw, I believe it was someplace in Central Virginia, right? This huge line of people, all kinds of people, right? Black, white, Latino, Asian, right? Americans. And these people were standing online for food boxes, right? Because of the fact that they don't whatever money that they have, um, it's I guess because it's not enough. We are going into the holiday season. What is it? Thanksgiving is coming week after next, and then once you hit um, Halloween, traditionally that's when everything begins for the holiday. And so we are basically halfway into the holidays, and people don't have money to buy food. A lot of those folks that you could see online, a lot of these people were a lot of the federal employees that Trump and Elon Musk basically, crushed their jobs. A lot of these folks are victims of the shutdown. A lot of these folks are victims of Trump's economic policies, war against the world with tariffs and all other good stuff. And those people standing online for food, what you could see that these people used to be what we would call, regular middle class people. They and the line was so long, man. It seemed like it was about what, quarter of a mile. Um, in front of this, like I think it was a schoolhouse, and they had everything set up outside, and it just really got to me. I guess the reason that it got to me so much is because of the fact that this was like the living proof of what Trump and the MAGA Republicans have done to this country. And I am so torn up inside because, look, I'm one of those people. And yeah, I'm a Black American man. And maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, right? Also because I'm a veteran. Okay. I'm total of about 26 years, Army, Navy, and the reserves. So maybe you add all that together. Maybe that has something to do with how I feel. But yeah, and I do plead guilty to having Trump derangement syndrome. Yes, definitely. because for the life of me, maybe I missed something. Okay, I still cannot grasp intellectually. I cannot grasp why anybody would vote for this son of a bitch. I cannot intellectually get my head around the fact that somehow this guy was able to beat Hillary Clinton, and that I can understand. Um, because when I was working with the Democrats in New York, in Manhattan, I kept warning them that we were opening up the gateway to hell if Hillary did not, would not change her campaign style. And well, we all know what happened with that. She didn't talk to enough people. She didn't go into minority neighborhoods like she should have. Um, she the whole her whole campaign thing was it wasn't a campaign. It was more like a coronation. Okay, and that just didn't fly. Okay, and, she lost, and we had 4 years of this guy. And at that time, you still had what I would call honorable Republicans, um, basically providing some type of guardrail. But hell, the whole world could see what this man was. And they could readily imagine what the hell this guy would do if he was unrestrained. Now, this last election, last year in November 24, we had Kamala Harris. Okay. Now, I have a problem with that because don't get me wrong. I mean, she was not someone who was not qualified to be president. However, the way it was done, there was no, convention, primary, blah, blah, blah. Okay. She was just, hey, well, Joe Biden can't carry it on, so we're going to put her in there. That was wrong. Then she also had to face the wave. And come on, man, we gotta stop kidding ourselves here in America. A lot of this was due to racism. You had a black Indian woman, okay, and that turned a lot of people off, or I should say, frightened many people. And I feel sorry for the people that felt that America would get a better deal with Donald Trump. After knowing what this guy, what kind of person he was. Now we're at a point in the history of this democracy where we have a very good chance, because people like to talk about the founders and everything, right? Well, we're in a very good position now to lose everything that the founders tried to institute for this country. And, I'm just wondering, thinking back to that line of people I saw trying to beg food baskets. Meanwhile, this guy that we put back in the White House, well, what's he doing? He's taking, we don't know where the money's coming from. What is it, 350 million uh, from supposedly private friends, which to me is pretty damn scary in and of itself. And he's knocking down the east wing of the White House. That hurts me personally, okay? Because almost half my naval career I spent going in and out of the White House, down to the White House basement, because I was assigned to the Defense Intelligence Agency. So it really hurts me to see that. And then on top of that, the Friday before the election, this guy is going to have a great Gatsby party. The theme being, hey, the 1920s, right? And meanwhile, millions of Americans, they're losing their health care. They are losing the ability to feed themselves. And to me, this whole administration has basically, it's been an administration that wants to give the finger to the average working American. And maybe I'm just an asshole. I'm quite sure I am in many respects, but I don't understand why people would be so willing to bow down to folks that don't give a good goddamn about them. I never figured that out. Except, what is it? That whole cultural war thing, right? Oh well, if I don't vote for Trump, the gay people and the trans people and the women with degrees and knowledge, followed by maybe a few black guys, right? They'll just take over the country. And people actually vote on this. Their minds actually work like that. But they didn't stop to think about, well, if this guy has his way, I'm living out here in the sticks in Kentucky, and the nearest hospital is like 20, 25 miles away. And you ever stop to think what happens when your lady gets pregnant and she has to get to the hospital like yesterday? What happens when that hospital's not there? You have to drive to the largest city in that area. And I just is it, you have to ask yourselves, is it worth it for this whole culture bullshit? Quite frankly. Now, yeah, and I'm gonna beat this food line stuff to death because I've never thought I would see in America a line over a quarter mile long of people having the right, because that's what it is. You're asking people for help. You're asking for food, and there's nothing wrong with that. The wrong comes in where you're living in modern times, the richest country in the world, and you are forced to have to do that. And I tell you, here goes a real kick in the ass to me. You got a president, right? Now this guy just shipped off. It's not 20 billion to Argentina. It's more like when you count all the stuff and bringing in Argentine beef and screwing American ranchers. When you put all that crap together, you're talking about like what, close to 40 billion bucks, right? Now that's what he's doing for Argentina. Okay. And are you aware of the fact that we send Israel something like about what is it, $10 million a day to help them commit genocide against Palestinians? Meanwhile, here at home, we have a situation where over 42 million Americans are in food jeopardy. Okay. Now, I know I am not the best speaker in the world, right? But I should think that even Mickey Mouse or Daffy Duck should be able to draw a picture of just how low we have sunk as a nation. And like I say, my thing is open. Please, somebody give me your damn comments. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me why I'm full of it. Okay, when I say that I don't believe that the richest nation in modern history should have people being hungry. Okay, and I don't want to hear any of this conservative Republican crap about what all people have to do is just go out and get a job. Man, since Trump has been in there, jobs have flown the coop. We're not creating jobs. And you have this AI thing, right, steadily creeping up. You had big industries now laying off thousands upon thousands of people. The purpose of a society is so that we can live together. And I know a lot of people, especially in the right wing, they don't want to hear this. But we live together so that we can take care of each other. Who was it? One of those English philosopher dudes. Was it Hobbes, whatever. Said something about a state of nature. And in the state of nature, life is brutal and short. Well, the purpose of a society is so that people don't have to live like that. And that's what Trump and MAGA and those eunuchs in the Republican Party, that's what they have given to us here in America. And I regularly call. I think my last video I did, I talked about the Republicans in Congress as a bunch of eunuchs. And once again, for those of you who are not familiar with the term of eunuch, a eunuch is a male, could be a man, it could be a, a, a beef, steer, or whatever, that has been castrated. Okay? Uh, to put it bluntly, they've had their balls cut off. And I'm not a doctor, but I believe that it has a lot to do with males, with the whole like adrenaline, testosterone thing. And I look at Congress today, our Congress today, and most of them, for the most part, on the Republican side, they seem to be a bunch of eunuchs, quite frankly. And I find myself asking the question: how did Trump manage to castrate all those Republicans? And it's funny. Well, I don't want to say funny anymore because it hurts too much. But it's ironic. A lot of those Republicans, especially some of the older cats, right? They got fathers and grandfathers that fought at Guadalcanal, landed at Normandy, Normandy beachhead. And I wonder how their grandfathers and fathers, uh, both alive and dead, how they feel watching their descendants, their offspring, basically simper around like a bunch of eunuchs, quite frankly. Remember now, always keep in the back of your mind that this guy Trump, when it was his time to serve his country, he invented a foot, what is it, a little bone spur, okay? And he used that 5 times to avoid military service. So these are who Republicans in Congress are kowtowing to. Now, yeah, I talk about them like dogs. I think that no one has, and I'm not trying to set myself up on a pedestal, but I don't think anyone has more of a right to talk about them like that than I do. Because I was born and raised in a Black Republican family. My old man was the vice president of the Republican Party in Harlem, in the western part of Harlem. He even ran for the assembly. So I know what the Republican Party was. And I tell everyone, this is not the Republican Party. This is an embryonic fascist Nazi party. Okay. Starting in the 70s, they decided to deep dive into the gutter. And this is what they came up with, essentially. This modern Republican Party, this is what they came up with now. Thanks to people like what's his name? Kent Phillips, Lee Atwater, folks like that. What's the name of the other guy? He's still around. You don't hear too much out of him. Um, Irish guy, Irish name fellow. But anyway, this is what the modern Republican Party is, a bunch of damn racists. Now, one of the things that they have done, or they were doing, they were essentially using Indian Americans, Americans from India or born here from Indian parents, people like Dinesh D'Souza, this clown that's running for governor in Ohio, uh, folks like that, Nikki Haley, right? Yeah, Nikki Haley from South Carolina. The little girl whose parents, they wouldn't even be able to eat if it wasn't for the fact that the historically black university in their area gave her old man a job. Okay. And what the Republican Party has done, it has used these folks to basically, oh well, social services and the social safety net, they're only for black people because black people are lazy, especially those black people in the cities. Blah 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 blah. Right now, essentially, that's what they did since the 70s, in so many words, right? Social services and government assistance are bad because they just make black and Hispanics lazy. And they used Indians starting in the 90s. What was it? But the 90s, early 2000s. You had them out there basically pushing that right wing wacko um, type of politics. Now it seems to be that there's a civil war in the right wing because of the fact that our Indian American brethren have discovered what we Black Americans have known all along, that the right wing, the Republican Party, was basically just full of racists. Surprise, surprise. What's the name of that woman? Ann Coulter. Now she does an interview with what's his name? Vanessa. The guy, like I said, the Indian American gentleman that's running for governor in Ohio. He had her on his show, and basically she told him, "Listen, I like your right wing extremist policies, but I could never vote for you because you are a brown Indian American," which is a very racist thing to say, but she told the truth about herself. And that's what's really rocking the right wing and the Republican Party. That's what's really rocking their whole tent right now. And you have what's his name? People like I don't like this woman, Candace Owens. I call folks like that. We used to talk about back in the '60s and '70s. You talk about Uncle Tom's, right? Well, number one, I owe an apology. I think all of us blacks that use that term, we owe Uncle Tom an apology. Because if you ever took the time to really study the whole Uncle Tom's Cabin thing, Uncle Tom was a decent man. He was a bit naive, but he was a decent guy. He was a good fellow. And he stood up for his fellow slaves, right? The real son of a bitch was this one called Sambo. And so that's when I see most black Republicans nowadays, Sambo, right? I call them Sambo Commandos, see? And that is what Candace Owens is. Remember, this girl's claim to fame is that she spent her time basically stomping all over the black community. Now she's kind of, I don't know, caught between the anti, uh, the racist anti-Semitics and the uh, Zionists, quite frankly. How she works that one out, that's her business. I could really give a good goddamn. But that's the problem that you have now. And to me, it's ironic that Indian Americans who would not be here, most of them, if it was not for the civil rights movement of the 60s that attacked America for its restrictive, racist immigration policies. So you got a lot of people who got into this country, then once they got here, they looked their nose down upon Black Americans. See, this whole thing with Trump, it's deep. See, it's really deep. Just like this clown, what's his name? Nick Fuentes. Now, what is it? What, 26, 27? And his was it Groper? Hold on a second. I think I wrote it down here. Yeah, Groyper. Gropers, right? And that whole turning point bullshit. To me, gropers seem like a bunch of young white males that can't get laid, quite frankly. And why you would want to associate yourself with a gang of people that they can't they can't get laid, I don't know, right? But I think that's a large part of it. That's where they get into this whole thing about white replacement. Remember? See, I'm not full of BS on this. Remember, was it 2017? Hundreds of young white men walking through the streets of Charlottesville with the little tiki torches, yelling, "The Jews shall not replace us." And see, that was the whole thing that the Jewish community was helping immigrants, blacks, browns, come into the country to replace young white males, which is absolute bullshit. But that's what these guys were essentially, that's the propaganda that they were fed. A young woman got killed because of that. Okay. That was also part of the group that attacked our nation's capital when Trump lost the election against Joe Biden. And see, this is what we're facing. And to me, the real danger in this country is the Republican Party as it now stands, the MAGA movement within the Republican Party, and with the gropers or groypers, whatever the hell you want to call them. And this is what is trying to tear down at the fabric of the United States. And we have to be honest and we have to recognize this for what it is. Now, these are the type of people that bomb churches, attack synagogues, um, try to go on to historically black universities to cause trouble, try to mess with the mechanism of elections. And again, I say we have to realize this. We have to really start speaking truth to people. See, this whole I don't know, they have this fantasy idea that somehow only white Anglo-Saxon Protestant men are Americans, Native Americans. Well, that's bullshit. Look, and please, I know, don't have me, oh, but you're attacking the United States. No, 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 I'm talking history. This is history. Colonists came from Europe because in most cases they didn't have nothing going on for them in Europe. They came here, they began to assault upon the indigenous people of the Americas, both North and South America. Okay? And then they brought black folks from Africa to be enslaved to basically build a foundation. Okay? And I know sometimes you hear somebody, well, my great so and so, he was a big hunky from Eastern Europe, Poland, and he came to Pennsylvania and he worked in the steel mills and blah blah. Yeah, that's true. Okay, but see all that good stuff. right? That was done because of the fact that the land was taken from the indigenous people. The Africans were brought over to work that land and build the economic foundations of what became a superpower called the United States of America. Okay? A lot of these firms now, you go to Wall Street, Lehman Brothers, for example, okay? That was all about slavery. See, this is, yeah, see, it's very difficult sometimes to deal with present day Americans because they don't have the historical background to understand who they were and where they came from. So as a consequence, you have some loudmouth like Trump or this guy Nick Fuentes, and I'm trying to figure out who the hell, what the hell has he ever done for the United States? Quite frankly, I mean, this clown never served in the military. He's another Charlie Kirk, right? Never served this country. Never, never spilled blood. Never spilled sweat for this country he claims he loves so much. And the ironic thing is, his name Fuentes. I can assure you, there were no Fuentes in 1607 at Jamestown. There were no Fuentes when the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock. So, why this guy, who supposedly has a Spanish Italian ancestry, what the hell makes him so hot and bothered about white Anglo-Saxon Protestants in America? And see, that's something that people need to really think about because that means that he's a damn immigrant or a child of immigrants, just like every damn buddy else here. So this whole thing about only white Anglo-Saxon people belong in the United States, this ridiculous nonsense. And don't get me wrong, I believe in openness. Okay, I believe someday that we will live on a planet where there will be openness, and we won't be trying to kill each other. But living in the here and now, I understand the whole theory of nation states. And I believe that, yes, you come into what has been designated, irregardless of how it happened, but what has been designated as my country, yeah, I have a right to know who you are and why you're here. I don't have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is what the Trump administration has done, basically creating an air of hysteria about brown people. That's basically what this whole thing is about. Let's get real here. Now it has spread, unfortunately, and that's the problem with racism because it has spread. Where you're now beating and deporting Canadians, Brits, okay? But that's the basis of this whole immigration policy, number one. Number two, the idea that you call people illegals. How the hell are you going to call any of God's creatures illegal? The proper term would be undocumented. And there can be a whole cascade of different reasons why an undocumented person is here in the United States. See? And something else I thought about, I thought that imitation, what was it? How's it go? Flattery is the best, is an example of imitation, or imitation is, flattery. In other words, if something's cool, people want to do it, right? America used to stand for something, but every time, and people like Nick Fuentes and MAGA and the Groypers, they're nothing new. Okay, they were, you can call them the old know nothings, the John Birch Society, the Ku Klux Klan, the White Knights of Camellia. It's the you know same song, maybe a different tune. But you've always had these people. These are the same people that, hey, no dogs in Irish need apply, right? And all Italians are gangsters. See, this is what you see now, which is really what pissed me off about Governor Cuomo in this recent election between him and Zoran Mondani. Here we have a man of Italian descent. He comes from a people that were never, originally were not classified as white Europeans. Okay? They were looked upon as being the trash from the underbelly of Europe. Okay? Just like the Irish a few decades before the Italians started coming over to America in large numbers, that's the same way that the Irish were looked upon. And now you have this guy Cuomo sitting up there chuckling with one of those racist New York radio commentators about, yeah, well, Zoran, I mean, I guess if we had another 9/11, Zoran would be very happy about that, which was positively an ignorant, stupid, heartless thing to say. And that's when I lost respect for Governor Cuomo. I had some serious problems with his sexual harassment, but there was never a trial. So, I'm a firm believer in hearing both sides of the story. But by his behavior, um, I would think that his innocence was quite doubtful. But the fact that he would stoop into that racist garbage, not thinking about his own ethnic background, I find that shocking. One thing I'll say about Curtis Leawood, and he was a Republican candidate, but I will give Curtis props because he did not, he didn't sink into that garbage. And they tried to Trump and his Republican billionaire buddies. They tried to buy Curtis Leawood, and Curtis told them to take their money and shove it. And he finished out his campaign, and I respect him for that. I truly do. Because he is one of the Republicans that he was, I don't know, like my old man and his Republican Party, right? He didn't, Curtis did not trip into the dark side like most Republicans of the day have. See, just like that woman that used to be a half decent congressman, and then she became a footstool for Donald Trump. Now she wants to run for governor of New York. Curtis, he wasn't about that. And he deserves respect for that, quite frankly. And the way that Mondami has been attacked, even by quote unquote fellow Democrats, uh, I find it disgusting. Number one. Number two, to me, it shows why uh, the mainline Democrats in New York basically, they need to watch out for themselves because a lot of them are going to be primary. It's time to get some fresh air in there. It's time to get people who are willing to stand up and fight for what's right instead of, taking a few bucks under the table and, making deals with the devil and calling it compromise. We need people who have courage, right? We need people who need to stand up and fight because we are under attack. And this business about the president of the United States telling New Yorkers, "Hey, if you don't vote the way I tell you to vote, I'm gonna cut your shit off." Right now, number one, that's unconstitutional. Number two, it's illegal. But the fact that he has the nerve and the audacity to threaten an entire city of people, that shows that there's something seriously wrong with our system. And we need to stand up to that. We need to stand up to ICE because just because they are federal agencies doesn't give. I look at some of these clowns. Number one, ICE is taking people in that we would not allow to come into the military. See, that's another problem that I see that we're going to have to contend with. We have certain standards in the military, and generally, by and large, we manage to maintain those standards. Now, with this little clown, what's his name, Hegseth, who wants to be a junior Napoleon, and this president, I do worry about the state of the military because they want to basically pick up the trash and put it in American military uniforms. But so far, I don't see that as happening as of yet. I've given enough time, and if the Democrats in Congress don't keep an eye on them, yeah, that will be a possibility because Trump and Hegseth are trying to militarize the American military against the American public. But this business with ICE, these ICE agents, well, we have seen they take anybody, right? Any trailer park trash, they will put in an ICE uniform and tell them, yeah, go out there and hassle dark people. Because that's what they've been doing. All right. They've been in front of judges, and I think it's going to come to a point where one of these judges is just going to say, hey, look, I got federal marshals under my command. We're going to drag your guys into court. And it's just that simple. And something else that we should all be afraid of is the fact that you have these criminals who masquerade as ICE agents and do all kinds of terrible, dirty things to little children and to people in general, even the American citizens. And this is something that the Democrats need to really take a look at when the Congress opens back up, whenever this shutdown is complete, because we as Americans, this is not our speed. uh, Armed men in masks walking through our cities, grabbing people off the streets without the proper identifying themselves or without warrants. And let me make another point. The reason that 2026 is of such importance, number one, Trump and his band of miscreants, they've already seen from the election last week that they're hated, and rightfully so. Okay. And they're terrified of what happens in 2026. You have to remember, if you stack up all the evidence against Trump and his crew and his cabinet, you're looking at a lot of prison time. That's why that maniac, what's his name, Steve Bannon, uh, keeps trying to push this bullshit about Trump in 28. Uh, If that happened, I think hopefully all the senior leaders in the military would get with the senior people in the Senate and say, hey, listen, we're going to have to talk about this because it would be unconstitutional, hence illegal. So I think that with Trump, but I do believe that Trump is so desperate to stay out of jail that he would engineer a constitutional crisis to save his ass. Listen, this whole thing with Epstein, uh, the billions that the Trump family has been able to make while Trump has been in the White House at the expense of the American people. Hey, pal, look, I think that 26 and 28 are going to blow this country wide open. We are in for some extremely rough times. Okay. I'm talking about serious prison time, maybe more than that, because what the Trump administration has been doing in Latin America, they have been committing murder. And I hope the military people who are participating in this disgusting example of cold-blooded murder. I hope they recognize that we're talking war crimes here. We're talking Nuremberg type action. And this bullshit about, hey, well, I'm just following orders. It did not that that excuse did not work out too well for the Nazis that got hung in Nuremberg. And I think Hexbeth and that chain of command, they need to bear that in mind, quite frankly. And this whole business about MAGA, the workers, whatever the hell you want to call them. Listen, I'm a Black American, okay? I am descended from people that made that middle passage from the African continent to the American continent and endured that horror, that hell, and that suffering, and came here and had to deal with the slavery, the and after supposedly our emancipation, we had to deal with the lynching, with Jim Crow, redlining, so on and so forth. So MAGA don't scare me. Workers don't scare me. As a matter of fact, I think they're pathetic. But the future of the United States of America, yeah, where I have family, friends, what have you, that does concern me. And to tell you the truth, you folks that follow Trump in 2016, and then you follow him again in 24, you working class, and I'm not trying to pull the race card, but I'm being real here. You working class white Americans, when are you going to learn? There is no Republican Party. This is not the Republican Party. Okay. And this party, whatever you want to call it, it don't give a good goddamn about you. Okay. If they want to point the finger at immigrants, if they want to point the finger at black or brown people, if they want to point the finger at gay people, if they want to point the finger at trans people, it ain't, it's just to basically give you something to chew on while they're like what did Lyndon Johnson say? While they're picking your damn pocket. Okay. And that's why you got millions and millions of white folks who voted for the Trump administration. That's why you are standing online waiting to get charity boxes of food. And you need to understand that. We ain't your freaking enemy. Okay? We are not your freaking enemy. Elon Musk, the first trillionaire, supposedly in world history, that's who your problem is. His flunky, Donald Trump, that is who your problem is with. Not me, not my black ass. No. Okay? I served your country. I got my lumps for it, right? I'm a disabled vet. I believed in America. But this whole crazy thing with this right wing madness, all you are doing is you are constantly digging yourself deeper in a freaking hole. And if our country is ever to be made whole again, we need to stop digging and start reading. Seriously. It's just like this little punk Nick Fuentes, right? Group of wealthy bastards are supporting him and the goal is to do what? To keep us divided, right? Whenever you see a movement that is working to divide people, somebody somewhere is making bucks off of it. Somebody somewhere is making money off of it, of our divisions. And we need to start, this is the 21st century. We need to wake up and realize that. See, the only goddamn thing that the MAGA Republicans, the Groypers, any of them have, they would rather burn a damn cross than feed a hungry child. Keep that in mind. That is what we're facing in this country. And I hope that what I'm doing here, I hope I'm doing my small part to try and make people wake up and realize that. Because in spite of the rocky start that America started off with, right? There's some good ideas there, right? It's workable, but people have to stand up. They have to make a stand. They have to say, no, the idea that we are going to dog out people because their skin is different from mine, or because maybe they worship differently. No, that's not the American idea. One of the things that George Washington said explicitly was, no, the United States is not a Christian country. It was settled by many folks who did happen to be Christian, but this is not a Christian country. This is a country that is a haven for people from all over the world. That was the idea. Okay, and you can find that in writing, number one. Number two, these people that attack Mandami because he happens to be of Islam, have you read the Constitution lately? It doesn't say a damn thing. And as a matter of fact, it does say in the United States of America, there is no religious qualification for public office. So when you talk out of your mouth about, oh, well, Mandami, he don't seem like, he's not a real American. There is no such thing as a real American. The only real American are a lot of the indigenous people that you're trying to throw the hell out of this country. Okay? It's, you talk about the Southwest. Those folks have been running back and forth for the last, what, 20,000 years. So what the hell are you talking about? You only show your ignorance. You people that freak out behind immigration. And the stupidity is so sad. It brings tears to my eyes to see people that stupid and to fall for the games of people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump and the MAGA Republican Party and the Groypers with folks like what's his name, Nick Fuentes, and what's the other asshole, Matt Walsh, and folks of that nature, right? For God's sake, sit down, read your goddamn American history, and stop being stupid and stop wasting time watching Fox. I think what was it Princeton University? They did uh, um, uh, some kind of test or what have you, and they found that people that regularly look at Fox, they might start off being half intelligent, but after constantly watching Fox Network, they actually wind up dumber. So that should tell you right there about the usefulness of Fox. Besides, why would I want to listen and take the word of a media enterprise that had to pay almost $1 billion for lying about the election in 2020? Why would I listen to a bunch of liars? I don't give a damn how many they got. What, one or two black tokens sitting up there? The brother that sits up there, he don't look like he don't know what time it is. He don't know where the hell he's going. And most of the time, I'm listening to him. He don't know what the hell he's talking about. But he's there. See, another Sambo commando, which is what before this whole split up between within the MAGA right wing Chris Kirk or Kirk, whatever his name was, and Fuente, before this whole thing blew up, right? Oddly enough, behind Israel and what's going on in Gaza. See, that's what really triggered it. And before I finish, just let me make one thing perfectly clear. Anti-Semitism is not the purview of us. These people that you call left wing. We weren't responsible for that bullshit. Okay. Anti-Semitism has always been a foible for the right wing in this country, going back over 100 years. So this crap that Trump, who he himself hung out with anti-Semites, said they were good people, right? I didn't say that. Donald Trump said that. You know, that black Sambo commando, Kanye West, who hung out with Nick Fuentes, had dinner at Trump's house, right? That's a whole bunch of right wing garbage. It's not left wing. And the truth of the matter is, right wing conservative Republican, MAGA type Republicans, they hate, generally speaking, they hate American Jews. Why? Because number one, American Jews are intellectual, and number two, they're progressive, basically progressive and damn good people. See, but what they like Jews in Israel who are basically immigrants from Eastern Europe who are living amongst a whole sea of dark brown people, and unfortunately, they're doing the whole genocide thing as we've seen in Gaza, and that excites the American right wing because then they transplant themselves and they're saying, "Yeah, we're going to support what Israel's doing." Because they're doing the same thing that we did to the indigenous people here in the United States. See, and that is what has been going on. Okay, the right wing in America, Republican, MAGA, whatever you want to call it, right? They hate American Jews. They really do. Just like they hate real American decency, they hate American Jews. But they support Israel because of the fact that they feel that what's happening in Israel is a cleansing of dark people. And it's time that people stood up and actually said that. So keep that in mind, okay? All of us really need to learn who our real friends are and who really believes in democracy. You got a crazy president that wants to go to Africa to protect Christians, but he cannot protect his own American citizens from hunger here in the from hunger in the United States. So you figure that one out. Listen, I got to get busy to help make dinner, and thank you very much for bringing me in your homes. Take care. We'll be back next time. And this is Bob Gums with the Concern Forum. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. And read. Peace. And we'll see you later.